So this is part 4 of me choosing my preaching Bible. This time around, I looked at lots of reference editions and came to a few conclusions. I'm going to pick up a little bit what I said last time, though. One time I mentioned about having the section headings. Let me get this in a good spot here. Well, let me just hold it up here. I mentioned about section headings and how I don't really need them. And then turned right around Sunday and was teaching from a book and from a Bible study that gave a chapter number but not verse numbers. And I found exactly what I was looking for every single time because of the section headings. Every single time. Now, it was something I was already familiar with and, had already researched before, but I didn't write down what the verses were. So, I went right there because they were just right there. I've enjoyed preaching from this, and I've come to a few conclusions. My first thing I like is that I like paper that's easy to turn. It's got to be easy to turn. I don't care how good of quality the paper is. If I can't turn it, I can't use it. It's got to be easy to turn. Here's a thought. I have found that if I have paper that's easy to turn and I have a paragraph format, I will find the verses faster than if I have verse by verse with paper that's hard to turn. So, just something to think about. So there's more to finding the verses than them being laid out this way. For me, it's a matter of how easily I can grab the pages and turn. Now, when I preach, I'm holding the microphone in my right hand, and I'm turning my pages with my left hand. And I usually just grab them right here, and I like to rub them together a little bit to separate them. It's easy to do in this Bible. The next thing I notice that I gravitate toward is paper that's highly opaque. And this is highly opaque paper. Also, I want the typeface to be easy to see, easy to read. This one hits all of those. I don't necessarily need references. It's kind of a hybrid in a way. You have the references that you don't really need for preaching. But they're good for a reference edition. We're good for a reference Bible, but then not having concordance or maps makes it not quite a complete reference edition. So it's a little bit of a hybrid. So when you compare it to some of these others that are specifically reference editions, they have a little bit of advantage in having maps, concordance, and any other tools that they just happen to have. This one is the Cambridge, let me get this out of the way here, the Cambridge Turquoise, and it has 28 GSM paper, but the paper is easy to turn. Now, if you get one of these new and the paper is not quite so easy to turn, it does become easier as you use it. So there I can separate the pages, no trouble at all. Highly opaque, very dark font, large font, almost close to giant print font. So, that's great for preaching. Excellent for preaching. If I already had this, I would not buy this one for preaching because I like this easy. I can see this easy enough. The pages are easy enough to turn. The only thing is, if I did not like self-pronouncing text, then I would buy this one to preach from. Other than that, I would preach from this one and not, I would be happy. I would be happy with that one. No trouble, no problems. Absolutely happy. Now, I did also preach from the copy of it from Church Publishers. This one has another advantage in that it has a little bit of margin space on the outside. Now, its paper's not as opaque, but it is easy to turn. I don't remember the GSM of this. It feels like it's in the mid-30s to my fingers. Easy to turn, no trouble at all. When I preach from this one, I tried to set up a few. I try to only set up like maybe 3 that I'm preaching from at the same time and swap back and forth, as it's convenient during the sermon without causing too much trouble. So it took me several sessions to get through these, but I almost didn't want to change from this one. I enjoyed it so much that I just kept preaching from it. And I'm going to say the same thing with this one. If I have this one, I don't think I would buy this one to preach from unless I wanted a little bit more opaque paper. And also if I didn't want the self-pronouncing text. I don't mind the self-pronouncing text much. I do prefer a cleaner text, but I'm okay with this. I don't really mind one way or the other on the section headings. This does not have the section headings. But, it's a good tool. If I have it, that's great. I don't know that I would buy one specifically for it. But if I'm trying to find a reference edition, then this might actually be a better choice simply because of maps and concordance. Depends on what you need. Really just comes down to what you need. And then the Longprimer. I love the Longprimer. Now mine is an older edition. I do not have the current version, which has the 36 GSM paper, I think it is, and maybe even 38 GSM. There's one they call the Longprimer Sovereign, which has an older setting. They've gone back and scanned an older edition of the Longprimer, which had better text than the one mine has. Mine has good text. That's great. But the older edition was darker, sharper, cleaner, and the Sovereign has a larger margin on the outside, and then down here, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it's a larger Bible, but that's okay if you're just using it on the pulpit, no problem at all. And this paper here, though, this is extremely opaque. It's easy to turn. This is 32 GSM. For me, I actually think the 28 GSM of the Turquoise is a little easier to turn. This is not hard to turn, though. This is easy to turn. It's no trouble at all. Same thing. If I have this one, I don't think I would buy that one to preach from unless I just wanted a cleaner text without self-pronouncing text. This has 100,000 references. These are not cross-references. These are chain references, and they go in both directions, forward and reverse. Get rid of that shadow there. I got a shadow. But I like this one a lot. It also comes in a thinner edition, which has the same 28 GSM paper as the Turquoise. Now this one, you got your concordance, you got your subject index, which I love that subject index. Proper names, paper to write on. If I could change anything in this one, one of the things would be adding paper to write on. Another thing would be adding a little bit more margin space. And then nice maps. I love these maps. Beautiful. So if I had this one, I probably would not buy that one. If I was looking for a reference edition, I would buy any of these up to this point over this one because of concordance and maps. Let's see what else we got here. This one, the KJV Premier Collection Giant Print. I'm just about going to say the same thing. I mean, it's a nice reference edition. Clean. The paper's not quite as opaque as this. So if I wanted a little bit more opaque paper, I would buy this one. But this paper is easy to turn. The font is dark. It's no trouble at all to work with. I enjoyed preaching from this, 100%. Excellent Bible. You still have your advantage in having concordance and maps. So, in reality, it's a better reference edition. It has the same references as this, 72,000 references, concordance and maps. So this is a better reference Bible. So if references are your goal, all of these are a better choice than the preaching Bible. Now, I don't like any of them so much more that if I had this one, I would have to buy those also, unless I just wanted concordance or whatever. But I enjoyed preaching from this one because I like the opacity of the paper. I like the darkness of the font. I like how easy the paper is to turn. This one, this is a good rival right here. Same design, basically. Same. Let me get these, push these out of the way. I got too many Bibles here. Push these out of the way. So, you can tell the same basic design. They're not sharing space with references on the horizontal plane. That gives you more words per line. It's a little bit cleaner to read. It's a little bit easier to deal with. And that's the advantage of both of these. So they place everything here. This one does not have footnotes. It does have, I don't think I'd write them. It does have a glossary. It has paper to write on. It has excellent maps. It has a really good concordance, but that's kind of small, and it has a glossary. So where this one places the words on the page itself, but they're a little bit difficult to see, to find quickly. You can mark them, highlight them, no problem at all. You can even write them up here if you want to. You can write them here if you want to. There's enough space to get a few little notes. And I've never seen a preacher that doesn't write something in the Bible they preach from. So, and there's a little bit of space there. I wouldn't mind having a little bit more, but you can highlight the words. That saves you from having to write them. But this has them in the back. The Canterbury does. Now, you don't know to look. You know, there might be a word you don't know that you don't know the meaning to. You don't know to look. Where this will alert you, but that's good and bad also, because this, you know, you might see, oh, there's an update here, so you go down here and you find it, and it might not matter to you. It might mean something so similar that, or something, you know, it might not make much difference. However, they both do have section headings. These are easier to see simply because they're in blue. These are black. I did find the ornamental drop cap to be a little difficult to read, because you have to pay attention to what that letter is and add it to this and then read. And they have right here, you just have like 3 to 4 words per line until you get away from it, and then you can read. This also has a self-pronouncing text. This is the American version of self-pronouncing, which just breaks the syllables up and then gives you an accent mark to show which one gets the stress. Now, it has red verse numbers. I'll bring it up here, you can see it a little better. Red verse numbers is beautiful. I love this Bible. 36 GSM paper. I love the color of this paper better than the color of this paper. I'm not fond of white, of bright white paper. I like just a little bit off-white, more of an ivory or an eggshell. That's what this is. That's my favorite color of paper right there. I love that paper. If I had this one, I wouldn't buy this one to preach from, unless I just wanted to get away from the self-pronouncing text, or if I wanted to get away from the ornamental drop caps. Now, there's an advantage to this one. I'll show you. You can get a personal size, which means that you can have the same layout in a preaching Bible, in a Bible you study from at your desk, and a Bible you carry. And I've preached from this one. I have no trouble preaching from this one. I do kind of prefer a little bit larger font to preach from. But if I had this one to preach from, I'm fine with it. I do prefer to preach from a little bit larger, though. But that would give you the advantage of having the same layout in a carry Bible and the same layout in a preaching Bible. There's one more advantage. I'll show you that one. It will soon be available in a wide margin edition, which is halfway between this one and the personal size. This one is an 8.5. That one is an 11. This one is a 9.5. Now, it won't be as dark as this. That's my printer. It won't be as thick as of a font. That's my printer. I meant to cut this, so pretend it's cut. That'll give you the page size, which is a little bit larger than the regular size Canterbury. It'll be available on 38 GSM paper unless they've changed that, but it looks sharp. That's an option too. You know, that if you want to preach from a wide margin, that's something I have to consider, and that's something else I'm going to be dealing with in this series. That's why I'm not making a quick decision on this. You know, someone asked, why don't you just tell us? I don't know. I really don't know. I've got to decide. Do I need references? Do I need wide margins? I don't really know. And then there's another one. And that is the Schuyler, or the Trinitarian Bible Society, Westminster. Now, I love the Westminster. I went on record saying that this was my favorite Bible when it released. They actually used that quote in their advertising material. So if you've gotten any of the catalogs of Bible publishing, that was in there. And I still stand by that. This is a 200,000 cross-reference Bible, and that is the best you're going to get. If my goal was references, this is my Bible. Absolutely. Now, I don't necessarily like preaching from it so much because the text is a little bit smaller than I want. However, it's not that hard. I can preach from it. It does have an advantage of having the updated words right there in the margin next to the verse they go with. And I like that. I don't really see those so well when I'm preaching, which is the only reason I don't really use it for preaching. Paper's easy to turn. I mean, you can tell side by side, this is easier to see than this. But if this was what I had, I'm fine with it. It also has the advantage of having maps and concordance. That's the Cambridge Concordance. They're maps, which look like a RISC board, which I like. I like those. But a little bit of paper to write them. So this has a reading plan, proper names, word list, how to pronounce them and all that, tables of weights and measures. It's a nice Bible. It's clean. If this was my only Bible, I'd be more than happy with it. But when you set it side by side to this one, and my goal is preaching, then this is the one I'm going to go with. The advantage in the Westminster is that it's available in a personal size. So just like the Schuyler Canterbury, you could carry around a smaller edition and read from and use for a missionary, or take it with you, whatever, and then and it matches your regular size Westminster. Now, this is also available in a large print. So when I was talking about not being able to see these so well, you can use the large print and not worry about that at all. The Bible itself is larger because, it has to have the 4 columns, and I don't really need the references when preaching. So I don't know that they would be an advantage in having that large of a Bible. Plus, you've got that larger page that you're having to turn, and for that, maybe the text-only edition. Now, they do have a Windsor in text-only, but the font is the same size as this, and I kind of want it a little bit larger. Now, if they made a large print Windsor, that would probably be my Bible. I love the Windsor. So if you made a large print Windsor, and that's just a same font, text-only. But there's another option. Now, which one do I want between all of these? Which one would I choose if I had to choose? Well, I don't want to choose. If I had to choose one of these Bibles, I don't want to choose. They're all nice. Why would I choose one? It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to make a choice. Whose idea was this? No, finished. I'm done. I'm not choosing. I'm out of here. Nope. So what I like about this one is that it's just really nice to read from. It's good to read from. If I was looking for a reference edition, I would consider this one because I love the paper. I love the font. I love the opacity of the paper. I don't know how much I would use a concordance in maps. I've got other tools. That's the thing. I have other tools. I wouldn't mind if this had a little bit of paper in the back. I wouldn't mind if it had a little bit of wide margin. Other than that, I mean, it's a good Bible. The thing with all of these others, they're multi-tools. That's exactly what they are. Same with the study Bible. They're multi-tools. So, I mean, you've probably seen one of these. I used to be an electronics technician, and I had to carry one of these because there's always a tool you don't have. But let me say this. If you've ever used that as a screwdriver, and you have the opportunity to pick up a real screwdriver, you're going to use the real screwdriver every time. And that's about what some of these Bibles are. They're multi-tools. They have a little bit of everything, but not any of them are actually that spectacular. They don't really excel at any of them. I mean, they don't have the best reference editions. This one has 200,000 references, but I've seen other tools have 500,000 references. These have a little bit of margin space, but I've seen Bibles with a lot of margin space. They have great print. They have good tools. They're really, 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 really good. But they're all a compromise. They're all a multi-tool. And that's kind of why when I'm looking for a preaching Bible, I kind of want to get rid of all the extras, and I want to just focus on the text. That's what it needs to be for me, focusing on the text. So for now, I'm still sticking with this one, simply because it hits all my points. Paper is easy to turn. The paper is highly opaque, and I can read from the text. So next time, I'm going to look at text-only editions. Because what happens if we get rid of all of the extras, the little numbers and the little letters and all the other stuff? What happens if we get rid of all that stuff? So I'm going to be looking at text-only editions, see how they compare to this. And then I mentioned wide margins. I'm going to go ahead and look at wide margin editions. There's also some preacher's editions and some pastor's editions out there. I'm going to look at those too. And then I will make a decision. Probably. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. Like, subscribe, and all that. Thank you very much.